Well, thanks for showing up tonight, everyone. I was just remembering a simile that the Buddha used. I think he actually heard it from um, one of the kings at the time. I might have mentioned it in a recent talk, so folks might have heard it, but he was talking to one of the kings who had come out and who had been a longtime student of the Buddha's and talked about experiencing life, the world, as if four large mountain ranges, one to the north, one to the south, one to the east, one to the west, were marching in towards you. And he asked the king, well, what should you do if that's your situation? And the king had some wisdom, right? Had been a student of the Buddha for a long time. Said, well, one should practice the Dhamma. One should practice, cultivate the heart, cultivate sila, ethical conduct, taking care of everyone. So let's do that. In the midst of whatever turmoil, whatever uncertainty there might be in our lives, or maybe you're having a really good spell, but we know that there is so much uncertainty, just naturally, so much uncertainty and vulnerability in our world where, we have real evidence that anything can happen. I often think that one of the real fruits of practice is this great deepening capacity not to be surprised. And it's not, it sort of doesn't contradict wonder or awe, but there's sort of an attitude, well, of course this can happen, or of course it can be like this. So the surprise, actually the non-surprise gets replaced by that sort of wondrous, of course this can happen. Of course the world can be like this. And it means that even when things are difficult, it's part of the mind wisdom understands that it's not fixed. So when we do our practice tonight, when we sit, let's have that openness. Sometimes our meditation practice is like, I want to lock things down. Like things are so crazy in my mind and so crazy in my life. I'm going to bring my mind to my meditation object and sort of lock things down for a while. So at least for this 30 minutes, I'll have some semblance of certainty and stability. And, there can be some reasons to have some of those attitudes. But tonight I want to talk about, after the sit, I want to talk about equanimity, this profound and beautiful balance, no matter the conditions. So when we settle in now, let's settle in for our sitting time and just tune in, each of us, let's tune in to our valuing or our aspiration to be at ease, no matter the conditions that show up in our lives. Ease with conditions, ease with my life as it is, my body as it is, my mind as it is, ease even with the world as it is, as imperfect as it might be, any of these things, still aspiring to be at ease. Sylvia Burstein, wonderful teacher, has just a beautiful line from her book on the paramis. Everything is always breathtakingly the only way that it can be. My heart, resting in equanimity, can respond with compassion. Everything is always breathtakingly the only way that it can be. My heart resting in equanimity can respond with compassion. So resting in equanimity is the same as trusting this capacity we can sense to be balanced, to be at ease with conditions, even if they're unpleasant. Still wholesome to be at ease with conditions, no matter what those conditions might be like at this time. And allow the heart to grow roots into the present moment, starting by growing roots, sensitive roots into the experience of the sitting body here. Both the subtle energetic sensations as well as the more ordinary gross sensations of the sitting body, the breathing body, just as it is. A beautiful, generous yes. Yes, the body's like this now. Sitting is like this. Everything belongs, everything in terms of sensations, bodily sensations, it all belongs. This experience of body sitting isn't a mistake, it's the way it is now. It's part of the truth of the moment, this experience of body, sitting body, breathing body. And let's uncover this capacity for a radiant, a radiant acceptance, balance, even a radiant vulnerability with the body as it is unfolding here. And the body, like everything else, is naturally alive with change. So giving, in a sense, giving it permission, the body, we're giving it permission to express its changing, unfolding nature. And we can do a simple body scan, just feeling what we feel in the head, forehead, brow, temples, the scalp, the ears, back of the head. Just exploring the possibility of unconditional acceptance, unconditional, pure interest and acceptance, allowing whatever is being felt here at the top of the head to be what it is. And then all the sensations in the face now included as well. Even subtle sensations of feeling the temperature of the air touching the skin of the head and face. Any tension in and around the eyes and brow. Just feeling and allowing that tension to be what it is. Feeling the mouth. all the different sensations here, the tongue and the mouth, the teeth and gums, the lips. So equanimity, balance, it isn't an indifference, isn't a disconnection or distant way of relating. The balance comes from this deep sense that whatever we're feeling now, here in the head and face, can be completely accepted. That we're willing to be vulnerable or open to what's moving here. Don't have to control it or don't have to figure it out. Just a simple exposure to what's moving in the head and face. And then we'll begin a transition and start being more and more interested in the throat and neck, tops of the shoulders, shoulder joints. Just allowing this sensitivity and interest and receptivity to the neck, the throat, shoulders. Unconditional acceptance, willing to be vulnerable, sensitive, feeling what we feel. And see if you can again sense that stability of equanimity, like the heart really being okay with whatever's being felt, this river of sensation that we're feeling in the throat and neck and shoulders. An unshakable balance, unshakable acceptance. Yes, it's like this. And then in your own time, do the transition to both arms, both hands, feeling into the entirety of the arms and hands. Unconditional surrender to whatever we're feeling in our arms and hands. Nothing left out. It's such a relief not to have to fix anything or not to have to define or explain anything, but just to allow these sensations here to move, to be known. And now the upper chest and upper back, the top third maybe of the torso. Take your time. This really simple, pure interest, receptivity to whatever's moving, whatever sensations are coming and going here in the upper chest, upper back, shoulder blades, upper spine, even feeling the clothes touching the skin, whatever that's like. Maybe a little movement in the rib cage as the breath goes in and out. Everything belongs, however subtle or gross. And establishing that really beautiful, radiant, balanced sensitivity in the middle of the torso. So the solar plexus and the mid spine, the mid back, kidney areas, whatever we're feeling in this part, the diaphragm. Deep patience as we cultivate this sensitivity, this receptivity, beautiful allowing. So, with this way of meditating, we're realizing over and over again an equanimity that is really based in intimacy, not indifference, not distance. Ease with conditions here in the middle of the torso, whatever we're feeling. Ease with these conditions. And just when you're ready, dropping down into the lower part of the torso, the abdomen and lower back, the structure of the pelvis, groin, floor of the pelvis. And just take our time, great patience as we receive whatever it is that's being felt here. Not afraid to be sensitive, to feel what we're feeling. Not in a hurry to move on. Over and over, developing the skill to sense equanimity, this radiant, beautiful balance, ease with conditions as they are. And taking your time when you're ready, tuning in to what's moving, sensations that are moving in the legs. So from the hip sockets down to both thighs, little by little, all the way down to the heels. Take your time. And now both feet. Not leaving anything out. We're cultivating this all-inclusive quality. And then eventually opening to the whole body. No need to divide the experience into parts, places. Just this very generous receptivity, receiving the totality of what we call body, letting it move, letting it express itself as sensation, subtle and gross, pleasant, unpleasant, the full range. Sense this possibility of intimacy, but that intimacy requires dropping any expectations, any agenda, except this ease with conditions, this acceptance of the way it is. ease with conditions. And even if we're noticing some dis-ease with the conditions in the moment, then in a sense, we step back. Awareness, wisdom steps back and allows the reactivity, because it's already there, the reactivity. So it makes, in a sense, it makes peace. So yeah, it's like this. Ease with these conditions. Sensing this ease with conditions, what we call equanimity. It's a beautiful radiance, generous radiance, quality of love that shines out, this wisdom that understands, yeah, it is like this now. Can this be okay? Yeah, it can be okay. It's already like this. So let's take a little time and stretch if you need to. Thanks for showing up, everyone. So you notice probably that I've always spotlight myself because we're recording right to the YouTube channel where Common Ground talks are stored, so that only my video screen gets captured, but all of our audio does. So just letting folks know that. And I'll save some time at the end for discussion. And so I've been, before I went on break, so grateful that Kamala Masters could speak and Shelley last week. So hopefully you were there for some of that. But before I was on retreat, I was talking about the four divine abodes of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy. And tonight I want to talk about equanimity, in particular as this quality of love. And maybe next week I'll talk about some of the other aspects of equanimity. So it's an interesting thing for us to reflect on. When we think about the warmth of goodwill and friendliness, or the tenderness of equanimity, there's a kind of the joyful quality of appreciating the good in others. There's sort of an affective tone to the different flavors of love, right? So what's the affective tone of equanimity? It's kind of when we feel a lot of equanimity, maybe you touched into it a little bit during the guided sit. When we do touch in, open up to equanimity, what does that feel like? There's a wonderful little verse from the Buddhist tradition. Out of the soil of friendliness grows the beautiful bloom of compassion. watered with tears of joy, mudita, appreciative joy, under the cool shade of the tree of equanimity. So the effective flavor of equanimity is this coolness. Venerable Analayo, this German monk some of you might know of, he talks about equanimity as the light of the full moon. So he says metta, loving kindness, basic goodwill, is the sunshine at midday. Full, sun at midday. That's the flavor of metta, loving kindness or goodwill. And then compassion is the sunshine at sunset. There's a kind of warmth to that and a little tenderness knowing the sun is about to set. And mudita, appreciative joy, is sunrise. And equanimity is the light of the full moon. Cool. It's a cool light. So that's just sort of interesting. I came across this poem. I mean, it's probably loosely translated from one of Hafiez's poems. If you don't know Hafiez, he was a Persian poet, sort of in the same time as Rumi, so a Sufi poet. And this more free translation goes like this. Look how the mirror will reflect with perfect equanimity all the actions before it. There's no act in this world that will ever cause the mirror to look away. There is no act in this world that will ever make the mirror say no. How did the mirror ever get like that? So polite, so grand, so compassionate. I remember one of my first longer retreats at IMS. One of my teachers said in the practice interview, awareness doesn't care what it knows. And equanimity, has this blending of wisdom and love. It has, qualities that we would probably normally associate with wisdom. But it also has a kind of radiance and generosity, like the Hafiez poem is suggesting about the mirror, how it generously receives and reflects whatever shows up in front of it. The mirror never gets tired. The mirror never excludes, never puts a particular spin. It just meets everything, reflects everything back. And there's this quality, and we want to. I try to suggest that in some of the instructions during the guided meditation. Just to. Someone calls it a quiet confidence of equanimity. There's a power, an imperturbable. I'm forgetting how to pronounce that word. Imperturbable. Ness to the equanimity. It has. I mean, I think even the Buddha in one of the passages uses like a large stone or a large rock, unmoved by the wind, as an image simile for equanimity. But the equanimity isn't like a fixed stance. It's more that receptive, that open, that wisdom that isn't surprised. The wisdom that knows that anything can happen anytime. Right? Isn't that true? Maybe these days are demonstrating that to us. Anything can happen anytime. Things can change, things can stay the same, but it's always fresh every moment how it's unfolding. Even in our bodies, we have sometimes experiences where, all of a sudden there's like quirky sensations showing up. Maybe that's just with older age, but, oh, wow, what's that? Where'd that come from? And it's there, and then it's maybe gone for a while. Or sometimes, we're wake up having had a dream and like, boy, where did that come from? And it's just so powerful to understand that, well, it was like that, or it is like this, and it's lawful, right? So this equanimity, part of that radiant balance of equanimity comes from understanding and trusting that things are breathtakingly the only way that they can be, right? That wonderful line. Given the lawfulness, the enormity and complexity, but lawfulness of causes and condition, what's unfolding in our minds, in our world, in our bodies, in all things, it breathtakingly can't be other than the way it is right now. And there's a certain power, presence, grounded, unflappable presence that equanimity can develop. Oh yeah, it's like this. It's like there's so much uncertainty and so much ambiguity, but in every moment there's this powerful truth. It's like this now. In this moment, it's like this now. And that moment, like now or whatever, it might be, there's a lot of confusion, but still, yeah, a lot of confusion is like this now. A lot of doubt is like this now. A lot of pleasure is like this. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But just that we're uncovering this capacity to align with what's being known or what's being felt, what's being sensed, experienced in the moment. That's where that and that power of equanimity and it really allows the heart to be generous because the heart feels grounded in a refuge, the refuge of wisdom that understands it's like this now. Where the inevitable and continuous movement of the vicissitudes, the eight worldly winds, as the Buddha talked about them, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute, praise and blame. Often we begin to trust this capacity for equanimity when our conditions are favorable. We're having a nice moment. Things are really pleasant. We feel safe. We're in a safe place. The mind is settled. The body feels settled. And so precisely because the conditions we're experiencing that we're sensitive to are not noxious, they're not bothering me, then we have an equanimity, but this is an equanimity dependent on the conditions being favorable. Being pleasant enough at least, right? But that's okay, because we still want to notice, oh, this is the mind, heart, body, free of reactivity. This is the mind that's willing to trust the moment. Yeah, maybe it's because things are really nice and they won't always be nice, but it's really useful, it's helpful to get interested in the mind that feels safe enough to just let things be. Desiring, craving will temporarily go quiet because we're content with the way things are. The heart's okay. But we want to notice, because notice that equanimity, that balance, that lack of reactivity, that lack of wanting things to be other than the way they are. Because we can sense it as a way of being. Now it's dependent on the conditions being favorable. But we start to sense, oh, this is a really nice way of being. This non-reactivity, this not being at war, not needing things to be different, not being in conflict with the way it is. Maybe this balance, this non-reactivity, maybe this could always be the way my mind, my heart relates. Even in the midst of busyness, me doing a lot of things, having that balance of equanimity through good times, through bad times, difficult times. And that equanimity then would be dependent on wisdom. But that's one of the reasons, like the basic way the Buddha would advise people is to develop really wholesome states, like the state of loving kindness or goodwill, because it's really pleasant. Or to develop concentration, like a lot of samadhi, and feeling the tranquility of that samadhi. It kind of evens everything out, that deep tranquility and stillness that can develop in meditation practice. Because we get a temporary equanimity based on those favorable conditions, right? The mind is in a wholesome state. And so everything we're experiencing is colored by the wholesomeness of the mental states, of the mental qualities, of tranquility, of goodwill, or whatever wholesome qualities have been developed. And then we'll experience some equanimity because of those wholesome, pleasant states of mind, qualities of mind. But it's good because, like I've been saying, we start to develop a relationship with equanimity. Oh, maybe this is the way. Like, not an equanimity that's dependent on particular conditions, but an equanimity that wouldn't be dependent on anything. I mean, we kind of know that, we just don't know how to get there. Like unconditional acceptance, not being in conflict with the moment. Because it doesn't really make sense to be in conflict with what's already here. Like if I have a cold and I have certain symptoms that are unpleasant with my cold, to hate that, it doesn't make sense. I mean, we do it because of the force of habit, but it doesn't really make sense. Or to be here, let's say it was a cold April day, and we really want the warm spring weather. Wanting the weather to be different is just unnecessary stress. It is like this. So that equanimity is, eventually we see it as this great, pragmatic, functional way to be alive. This balanced way. Well, now it's like this. And to really experience that can develop as a beautiful, radiant quality of our heart and mind. Yeah, it's like this now. And it's the sort of love part of equanimity is like, I know how to meet the moment. I know how to make peace when the moment is however it is. Because it isn't like making peace, it's like, I don't have to figure out how to be peaceful with these conditions. I just need to understand the deep value of abandoning greed and abandoning ill will and abandoning disconnection. Because that's what equanimity is. It isn't so much, okay, I've got this special sauce, this special attitude of mind, I'm going to pull out equanimity. It's just, it arises, the wisdom end of equanimity, the equanimity that arises out of wisdom. It's really this deep, deep conviction that has been gained through thousands and thousands of times of seeing that ill will hurts. Ill will doesn't help. lust and greed hurt. Lust and greed do not help. It never does anything but squeezes our heart. So equanimity, when we realize there's this other way of being, which is not relating and reacting to the moment with greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah, so it's really a lot of the insights that the Buddha points his teachings and practices point to. It's really more about realizing what can be abandoned, what's not there. So in a state of equanimity, realizing, oh, the mind, the heart is empty of reactivity, empty of needing the moment to be different than it is, empty of needing things to be better, or for this to go away. It's empty of all that. So equanimity is more about what's not there. In the Dhammapada, this wonderful collection of verses from early Buddhism, there's a line, one who has rejected the world's bait is called one at peace. And I don't know if people know who Nisargadatta is. He was a great, well-known saint, teacher type in India, maybe Mumbai. And I think he had just like a cigarette stall, but he became really wise. And people started to show up, he's not a wealthy person at all, of course. And eventually Westerners started to hear about him and started to show up. This is maybe in the 50s and 60s, I forget when he was alive and teaching. And there's a book you can track down that I recommend, actually. I think it's called I Am Awake, Nisargadatta. And yeah, he has this line, this teaching. I won't remember the whole passage, but it's like he said something like, the world is all loops, circles, and the hooks are all ours. That thing that attaches, right? So there's a lot of bait, but it's the mind that goes out and grabs it. It's like Ajahn Chah has that famous little teaching about sitting outside of the village, and he was mind was going crazy because he thought all the villagers really respected him, being a hard practicing monk, following all the rules, monastic rules, and every day he'd go into town and they seemed to be very respectful and feed him and take care of his needs. But they're, trying to practice at night. I don't know if people have been in Asia, but in a lot of the countrysides in Asia, there's just culturally something about most buildings having a big outside speaker. And it's just that they would play stuff. The monasteries would have chanting being played through their speakers, and houses would have sort of pop music being played in their speakers. And it's just like that, just can't help but hear a bunch of different speakers going, making all kinds of sound. And so he was lamenting one night, late at night, trying to meditate and hearing all the sounds from the village, the speakers from the village. And it's like, don't they respect me? Aren't they trying to support me? Why would they have all this noise? They know I'm out here meditating. And then, eventually he got interested in the experience, of his mind reacting in the way that it was reacting. And he really saw clearly that because the presumption is that the sounds are coming and attacking me. That's how it actually seems to feel when we're in that experience, right? Some irritating sound, it's like, it really almost feels like it's attacking, hitting, bothering me. But he really understood, no, his mind was going out to the sound. It was his mind attacking the sounds from the village. And that can cease when it's seen as being not helpful. Oh yeah, I am that. Thank you for posting that, Jessica. This is from one of those famous suttas where the Buddha is talking to Rahula, his son. Rahula, develop meditation that is like the earth, for then agreeable and disagreeable sensory impressions will not take charge of your mind. Just as when people throw what is clean and unclean on the earth, feces, urine, saliva, pus, or blood, the earth is not horrified, humiliated, or disgusted by it. In the same way, agreeable and disagreeable sensory impressions will not take charge of your mind when you develop meditation like the earth. Yeah, so one way or another, it can be helpful for us, and it will be probably to a large degree specific to each of us. How do we naturally, organically bring a sense of vastness into the moment as we're living our lives, as we're relating? Because we can get sort of tunnel vision, and but part of the Buddhist wisdom, the effective flavor of wisdom is vastness, like boundless space. Like even, and I'm not diminishing the climate crisis, but when we're right in the middle of it, when we're really experiencing the rising tides, the more fierce storms, the droughts, the change in temperatures, the devastation that comes, and how many creatures, including human creatures, are harmed. It's really appalling and totally breaks our heart. But as we go out, bigger and bigger perspectives, from the planet to the solar system to the galaxy and beyond and beyond and beyond, what we see, what we sense is just the endlessness of causes and conditions, the boom and the bust, the Big Bang and the whatever it ends with, the big coming back together, and then the next Big Bang, and the on and on and on. And that vastness doesn't change the truth of the specific suffering of the planet, of the creatures on the planet, of individuals. It just brings in other information. It brings the suffering in the context of the vastness. Because we don't want to lose the specificity of the harm and the suffering, but we just want to understand that isn't the whole truth. And part of this point is about humility. Because when we have a toothache, the mind can get so insular about it. It's just like, my tooth hurts, my life is being burdened by this toothache. And it's like we're not connected. We don't really have the bandwidth to be connected to anything else. Like that, oh yeah, this is what happens when you have teeth. They hurt sometimes. And there's some people with all their teeth are rotting out, and there's some people who don't have any problems with their teeth. But all teeth will fall apart, before the person dies or after the person dies. But, it is the nature of these teeth. This is how it is. So that's just the first step in expanding the perspective. that can soften. What it does is it doesn't change the experience, but it allows the mind to begin to drop what's extra, right? The self-centered, insular, obsessive qualities can fall away. And that's probably what the Buddha was pointing to when he taught Rahula to be like the earth. Vast, understanding, oh yeah, this is how it is. People pee, people throw down flowers. This is how it is. This is a wonderful Jane Hirschfield poem, Late Prayer. Tenderness does not choose its own uses. It goes out to everything equally, circling rabbit and hawk. Look, in the iron bucket, a single nail, a single ruby, all the heavens and hells, they rattle in the heart and make one sound. It can be an interesting exercise. You might, if you're inspired, you might even want to resolve it now, like for the rest of today or for tomorrow. But just to experiment, like what would it be to live my day, live this evening, free from surprise, and not from indifference, but just understand, like when the heart is really grounded in the mystery of causes and conditions, and grounded in the truth of vulnerability and uncertainty, that we're not in control, right? Really grounded in that, then that really gets us more in the direction of no surprise. No surprise. And we can even start cultivating like what you will have to come. Each of us will have to come up with our own phrase, but something like, "Of course." So every twist and turn, you get a phone call. You don't have to say it out loud to somebody, but inside, in the heart, "Oh yeah, of course. Sometimes it's like this. Really good stuff happens. Oh yeah, sometimes it's like this." Some of you probably have heard this. I think it's an old Zen story where there's a farmer and just getting by. He's got a couple kids and family, and just getting by. And one day, a beautiful wild horse just shows up, and they're able to get it into their corral, and they're going to train the horse. And the neighbors see that the farmer has found this beautiful animal, that can be trained and, help with the farm work and help with the breeding of more horses. And it's a real boon. And they all come by and say, "Oh, you're so lucky to have gotten that horse." And the farmer had some wisdom, and his response was always, "Well, who knows? We'll see. Who knows?" And so days go by, and his son or daughter decides it's time to tame that horse, that wild horse, so it can be used on the farm. And they try to do that, but they get thrown off and break a leg. And all the neighbors come by and say, "Oh, this is terrible news. You need the help of your son or your daughter, and what are you going to do? This is terrible." And the farmer says, "Well, who knows? Who knows? We'll see." And a few days later, the general with the army marches through town, taking all the young people away to war, but not the person that fell off the horse with the broken leg. And so all the neighbors come by and say, "Oh, you were so lucky your son, daughter wasn't taken away to war to fight, And the farmer, of course, says, "Well, we'll see, who knows?" And on like this, just that attitude. Like, we'll see, who knows? And of course, like anything, there can be a shadow to equanimity too. Like we start, it makes sense to us. Oh yeah, it'd be nice to have a lot of equanimity. It'd be nice to be balanced. It would be nice not to get pushed around by the ups and downs of my life, the 8 worldly winds that I mentioned earlier: gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute, praise and blame. It'd be nice not to be pushed around by those things. So we start to like believe in equanimity, and then that just naturally leads to imitating it. It's almost like it becomes our brand. I'm a Buddhist. I know Buddhism is a lot about equanimity, so I'm just going to be equanimous, and suppress reactivity. And so this is something we all have to navigate because we are naturally, inevitably emotional beings, right? And we'll have emotional responses as things come our way in life. Our heart will break, our heart will be ecstatic. All these things are going to happen depending as circumstances unfold for each of us. So equanimity isn't just another burden. So now, oh no, I can't have ecstasy because it's just what it is. Cool down, Mark. So we want to be on the lookout. I often mention this. Michelle McDonald, one of my teachers from the 3-month retreats I did way back in the 90s, that 3-month retreat at IMS, and she would say sometimes, the great thing about a long retreat is you'll inevitably drop some of your false equanimity. And I think what she meant by that is when we're in that more quiet setting, especially a longer retreat, it just becomes such an obvious burden. Any brand, any trying to be somebody just becomes a burden. But especially, thinking we're supposed to be even, trying to pretend to be even, trying to pretend to be equanimous, is just a huge burden on the heart. And it's really not equanimity, right? It's just another way of suffering, thinking I should be equanimous. Equanimity is really allowing nature to be nature, and that includes allowing our own nature, the nature of our own mind and body, to move, to express itself as it is. It doesn't mean we're intentionally, trying to be reactive or intentionally acting out in ways that are harmful. But we might act out sometimes in ways that are harmful to ourselves or others. And we can still be equanimous. Oh yeah, sometimes it's like this. I lose my mind and I say things that I later regret. Yeah, sometimes it is like that. And there will be consequences probably. But I'm going to relate to that with the wisdom and love of equanimity. I'm going to include that. Oh yeah, I'm human, conditioned with a mind conditioned by culture. I'm just an animal too, right? Sometimes it's like this. And indifference is another one of the shadows of equanimity. This is from one of the senior Western Ajahns, teachers in the Thai Forest tradition, Ajahn Tirudamo. And he has a book on the 7 factors of awakening. This is a section when he was talking about equanimity. One of the dangers of trying to develop equanimity directly is that it is very likely to become indifference. True equanimity, though, is even-mindedness with regard to all the difficulties, the worries, the busy mind, all the problems. Thus, equanimity results more often from developing many of the other spiritual qualities first, right? And this is the point of not thinking we're going to go, okay, I get it, equanimity is the flavor of awakening, and I'm just going to go there, because then it becomes a false equanimity, something we're just imitating. So he says again, thus equanimity results more often from developing many of the other spiritual qualities first. Developing concentration provides the possibility of calming down some of our usual emotional reactions, habitual interpretations, and self-supporting stories. Through the development of mindfulness, we learn to tune into the conditions of mind, including our way of reacting to what we experience and its inherent impermanent nature. Investigation of Dhamma helps us to realize some of the background causes of this reacting, which results in some degree of letting go. In this way, we are preparing the ground for a more balanced, equanimous engagement with reality. Otherwise, we may idealize or hypothesize some kind of equanimity-like mood, when in fact we are repressing, resigning from, or dampening down our energized moods, or resorting to an aloof, spiritless, emotional frigidity. That's why, the development of equanimity often starts with a lot of forgiveness and compassion and patience. These are really useful qualities to start to recognize in our lives, this capacity to be patient, to be forgiving, to be tender about our own flaws and the flaws of those around us and the suffering that gets set in motion. Yeah, and it's a great antidote, the development of these qualities leading to equanimity, a great antidote for what otherwise would probably be our judging mind, comparing mind, evaluating mind, who's better, who's worse. Because we understand, it's like we're really tuning in to the conditional nature, the lawful nature. There's a traditional way that phrase that people would use when they're cultivating equanimity that's can kind of rub us the wrong way. Sometimes, let's see if I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, here it is. All beings are owners of their karma, heirs to their actions, born out of their actions. Their happiness depends on their actions, not my wishes for them. Right? But that's an important setup. Like, although I wish well for you, I want you to be happy, I want you to be free from suffering, I also understand the enormity of causes and conditions that have been set in motion. And some of what's in motion are the natural results of actions, of your intentional actions. And they will have their say here in terms of how things play out for you. I love you, I wish you well, I do not want you to suffer, and I appreciate that things will unfold lawfully, and that actions done with intention set things in motion, and they will play out. But that's not a way of me judging someone or judging myself. It's just I'm trying to get, right, the whole point of the practice is to become more and more intimate with the way it is. So the understanding of karma isn't used to judge or throw somebody, ourselves or somebody else out of our heart. It's actually there to help us get close to the way it is, to what's unfolding. So we can be loving, so we can respond skillfully. So that's just interesting, that reflection that, oh yeah, things are unfolding lawfully, that what has been set in motion will have a say on how things unfold. I mean, it's not just about our intentional actions. There are a lot of natural causes and conditions that are affecting how things unfold. I'll just end with this few lines from Shantideva, a very well-known Buddhist monk from India, maybe around the ninth century. One way, one way this section gets translated, this you can often hear the Dalai Lama, if you listen to him or some of his writing, he'll often quote this teaching from Shantideva. If there is a remedy, then what is the use of frustration? If there is no remedy, then what is the use of frustration? So there's different ways this gets translated, but the idea is, if there's something you can do about your suffering, the world's suffering, well, good. There's something you can do, do it. If there's nothing at this moment for you to do, you're not clear about what to do in this moment, then there's nothing for you to do in this moment. But whether this moment is a moment where there is something that you feel would be good to do, or it is a moment where there isn't anything clear for me to do, why get frustrated? Why not be equanimous? So the reason why that teaching's potent is it can help us understand that equanimity is not passivity. If there's something to do, well, do it. Something good to do in this moment, do it. If there's nothing that needs to be done, nothing we're being called to do, then but in any case, the heart can be balanced and at ease. It'd be nice to hear from people now, your own reflections on equanimity, your own learnings over the years, questions that might come to mind, reactions to these teachings on equanimity. Yeah, what comes to mind? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. Feel free to introduce yourself. You can always share your pronouns if you want, and maybe where you're from if you'd like. Anybody want to get us started? Where have you experienced equanimity in your life, that kind of balance? Hi, Edith.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good.
My name is Edith, she, her. Um, I I had a kind of a life-changing experience of equanimity, and you know this story, Mark. But a number of years ago, I had an extremely powerful experience that was very disturbing, and to me, and it's very difficult to live with this because it was so disturbing. And now I went to the Barry Center for Buddhist Studies and I was taking a class from Andy Olinsky, and I don't even remember what the class was because that wasn't the learning at all. But I went to his office and I decided to tell him about this. Um, and he turned in his chair to face me, and I started telling the story, and I started crying and sobbing. And I looked up at Andy, and it was complete equanimity. I've never experienced it. It was unbelievably powerful, and there was nothing passive about it. He didn't move a muscle the whole time, but the equanimity, it was so palatable in the room. Um, um, just probably one of the more important moments of my life to have had that experience of what it was truly like to be on the receptive end of someone who really uh, knew way more than me about being equanimous.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Edith. Yeah, go ahead, Jaya.
Good evening, everyone. About 3 years ago, I was in a hospital and with blood poisoning and didn't know yet that I was in the midst of 2 days of maybe not living. And I saw my husband with tears in his eyes when he spoke to the doctor, and I got the clue that something was very serious. I knew I was not well. I could hardly walk, um, and he was with me the whole time, so maybe that gave me strength. But in the morning, I remember being so fortunate that not only for him, but there was a tree outside the window. And the thought came to me, well, my goodness, this may be where I'm going to die. And my mind was quiet. It was like, wow, this might be the place. It was almost like a quiet discovery. And truly, had I only been by myself and suffering by myself, granted, it could have been quite different. But that was an acceptance, which I see as an equanimity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Appreciate you sharing that, Jaya.
yeah. Mm.
Other reflections that come to mind?
Hi, Mark. I can share. My name is Lucy. This lesson, this equanimity topic, has been brought to the forefront in my mind, and I appreciate your instruction to try it. Just observe in the day to day, observe for the rest of the day and for tomorrow, because I've had lots of difficulty with getting back into my house and tenant problems, and kind of been in like a transient living on in my friend's place. And friends would come to me, and it reminds me of the horse story, because the friends would come to me and, oh, you're so unlucky. I can't believe you have these terrible tenants, and hopefully, this will work out. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And then, like, oh, I have to go to the landlord tenant board with the government and have them have a ruling to have them move out. And oh, I hope that's going to be good. And then the ruling came, and oh, you have a date, so you must be so excited. I'm like, oh, yeah, we'll see. So this kind of has been playing in my mind, all of this, to this day. For me, it will be like when I have the keys to this home, then okay, so that part will be done. But there will be something else that will come about having the responsibility of having this home now, and some unsatisfactoriness about it. And so the nature, like, just this teaching about the conditions, even watching the news. I love how you just said, like, look what it's like to not be surprised. Like, I'm watching the news and in small doses, and I was like, not even surprised. Like, it just is what it is. It just these waves of activities. So the teachings of the Buddha are always, bless you, always
Excuse me.
timely, and they are still timely. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Lucy. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark, for just being on this topic recently. What's coming to my mind is basically that, like, I can't necessarily change how I'm reacting to things, right? That's part of nature. And so, like, the idea that I don't have to suppress something or transcend something in order to sort of like maneuver myself around into some sort of like balancy, even cool state or something like that, but that I can be through all that crap, and like the mind going nuts or whatever, and have those moments where, like, is it okay that I die right now? It's okay. Just, as crazy as it can get, to have that, there's sort of like I don't know, like a breath of air or something that comes between me, like between what's happening and, like, you know, I don't know, panic, I guess. There's just like that little space that can be like, okay, it's like this. It's just a little pocket of peaceful that that isn't always there and can touch in and out. But like, there, when it's there, it just really feels refreshing, really feels nourishing. And I think that's close to what we're talking about with equanimity.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jessica. And it seems like as I heard Jessica talk, I was just sort of flashing on how, yeah, like just relating to what Jessica was saying. And then remembering, like, for me, how that moment of freshness, of really not congealing, really being equanimous, not surprised, but, and feeling how much freedom there is in that. And then I noticed like that tendency to want to claim the equanimity, like to kind of fix on it, or and then of course it doesn't work because then it's like a strategy that's, I'll be equanimous. So there's something about real equanimity that has to be fresh, always real, and not a stance. And that's the shadow, right? Looks like we have time maybe for one more. If there's anybody else who wants to share a little bit before we end our time together. Well, maybe we'll leave it here. Appreciate the comments, though. Really nice to be with you all tonight. And a bunch of things coming up. There's going to be a half-day retreat on the 3rd. Shelley will be leading that, and a day-long retreat at the end of the month, not the last Saturday that I'll be leading. Maybe it's like the 22nd of May. I forget exactly when it is. So they're coming up this month. And Shelley and Wynn Fricke will be leading a retreat at our retreat center and on Zoom. That I think it's the first weekend in June. So you can sign up for that, either the Zoom or the in-person. The registration is open for that. And of course, many other things coming up. You can check out our calendar. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to say good night.